Well, hello everybody. This is my name is Alberto Martinez. I am the owner and the manager of this YouTube channel that you're visiting. And if this is your first time visiting, this was a channel that was dedicated to me and my wife Stephanie and our times together, our great moments together, everything leading up to our marriage, our wedding, and then moments after our wedding, and some events that we were able to capture and put on video after about a 9-year journey, 7 of which we were married. And she passed away on October 1st of 2022 after fighting stage 4 cancer for about 14 months. I made the decision after a while to make this channel a memorial channel for her, for us, for our times together. And I've also made the choice to make this channel make it a resource for widows and widowers who need answers to things or just need to find ways to make sense out of what they're going through. I also wanted to do book reviews, movie reviews that specifically cater to the theme of being a widow and widower, because it's amazing how much you can relate to entertainment when it comes to telling stories of widows and widowers. And what you're looking at is the novel A Man Called Uwe, which became the motion picture A Man Called Otto, which starred Tom Hanks. I'm going to be reviewing both the Swedish film as well as the Tom Hanks film. But this is a review for the original novel by Frederick Backman, who wrote the book. So Otto, or Ove, is a widower, 59 years old, and he's trying to navigate this life months after his wife Sonia passed away. And during the course of the story, we see in flashbacks his life with Sonia. Even before Sonia, we see his relationship with his father, and his father, who himself was a widower. So Ove never got a chance to really know his mother. And it was his father who raised him and taught him how to be a self-sufficient man. And Ove got his start working in the train yards, which was his father's original job before he passed away in an accident at work. And Ove had a series of, I guess you could say he was a man of bad luck, because in addition to seeing his dad pass away, he saw his house, his father's house that he remodeled with his own hands. He saw that burn to the ground, and he had to rebuild his life from there. But in a string of bad luck, he meets his wife Sonia, the woman of his dreams, and he meets her on a train ride, and he concocts the story of him being a member of the military as a reason why he takes that train, even though he doesn't take the train normally, but he takes it because that's the train that Sonia takes. So he agrees to a date with her, and that's when he tells her that he was lying to her about why he took the train. He wanted to get to know her, and because he liked her, and she saw the sincerity in why he did what he did, and she grew fond of him after that, and then that began their relationship. And the book goes into his relationship with his Sonia's father, as well as her cat Ernest. And this is the story that's told throughout the book. It's scattered throughout the book because it reflects certain moments in Ovi's current life that helps us understand his motivations for certain things. So he meets a family who moves into the neighborhood. He's like a neighborhood watchman. So he meets a new family that just drove in. Parvana, who's pregnant, and her husband Patrick. And they meet under the weirdest circumstances because Patrick is trying to drive their vehicle or trying to park the car illegally, and he ends up breaking Ove's mailbox. So Ove has to park the car for them. That begins a very interesting relationship between Ove and Parvana, who treats Ove like a father figure. We see various relationships with him and many people in the book, including Jimmy, who is kind of like an adoptive son of both Anita and Rune. Anita and Rune are around Uwe's age. Rune is, or was, Uwe's best friend. They both had a similar vision for the neighborhood, and they both joined the residential board, of which Rune became the head of, and Ove for a while had a resentment towards Rune because of it, and they also had a rivalry in terms of how they both continually updated their cars every few years. one of the kids, Adrian, who's the neighborhood mailman who Ove, in their initial encounter in the book, threatens to have his bike locked up because Adrian parks the bike illegally, but it's only for a few minutes. And he reveals to Ove later on that he was one of Sonia's students and he was transformed by her because she believed in him. And they connect through that. And so it's like the ghost of Sonia is currently motivating Ove's life, but it took him taking that step out from his shell and forming relationships with these people. Because throughout the story, well, through most of the story, I would say through most of the first 2/3 of the book, always trying to commit suicide. So he has suicidal ideations because he wants to be with Sonia. And there are quite a few failed attempts in the book, including one where he's trying to hang himself, but the hook goes off on him and he ends up not doing that. Many attempts of him trying to end his life don't go according to plan, but it also motivates him or encourages him to be a service to the people around him, to Parvana, to Adrian, and eventually to Anita and Rune when he finds out that Anita's husband, Rune, is being taken from her. It's a private care unit that is looking to take Rune into a home. But again, multiple times in the book where he tries to end his life and it doesn't come to pass because there's always something that prevents it from happening. But every time that something happens where he's trying to end his life, it's always because he ends up helping someone. So his life becomes of service to someone else. And I know I've given a lot of details, and I more or less may have spoiled some details. I won't necessarily spoil too much more with the story, except to say it is a tearjerker. If you understand the widow and widower walk, then you're going to recognize some of the things in the book are very familiar. One passage in particular for me that really, it's the first time reading the book when I cried, and my voice started to shake. He's talking to Sonia, but you don't realize that she's dead until he leans over to the stone and says, "I miss you." And that was one of the first instances in the book where it really got to me. And that's where I knew, the author definitely understood. And I don't think that Backman is a widower himself. So if that's the case, it's amazing how much research he was able to do to get all the triggers down pat. Because there are some triggers in the book. And if you're a widower, you'll recognize them. But it's an inspirational book in that it enforces one thing, it enforces one idea, which is life is about people. Life isn't about being stuck in the past and allowing the tears of the present to weigh you down and to weigh you out. For as long as we breathe, for as long as we're alive, we are a service to people. We are called for relationships with people. And it's a hard pill sometimes to swallow for people because there are some that like being isolated. There's some that like being introverted. There's some that just want to be left alone. But what we see in Ove is a man with purpose, a purpose he didn't ask for, but a purpose that once he recognizes what it is, he clings on to it and realizes it's the way to keep Sonia alive in his memory by being like her, by showing the kindness and selflessness to people that she had. And he did it with the most unlikeliest of people, including Rune, who he had a long-standing rivalry with until he realized that their long-term friendship was more important. That the foundation that helped them bond over the years was far more important than any misplaced sense of rivalry. And he put that aside, and he showed the selflessness and the care and the love that these people needed. He turned his tears and sadness into love. But yeah, I definitely recommend the book especially if you're a widower. Widow and widowers understand the pain of loss of your significant other, and they understand when you lose that person, you're not just losing that person, you're losing that man or the woman that you were to that person. In my case with Stephanie, the man that I was to her went to the grave. That unique man that I was went with her to the grave. So that man is gone. And that made loss even more profound because not only did she go, but the man that I was to her also went. And some people don't they tend to not realize it until it happens to them, and then they realize, well, that's why this grief is so profound, and it's beyond words to describe it. And I think this is a tale of a man who was trying to rediscover himself. Otto was a shell. Ove was a shell of a man, and it took people that needed him, that relied on him, for Ove to rediscover that man again, or to discover within him a new man. And that's probably what he needed to be, a new man. A new man that was there to serve people, to help people, to form a bond and relationships with people. In the way that Sonia did. So I'm getting a little choked up here. I don't mean to get choked up, but it's definitely a wonderful read. It took me, so I'll be honest, it took me about, I bought this book in August of 2023. August of 2023 was when I went to Texas to visit Stephanie's grave, because she wanted to be buried in her home state of Texas. So I had to plan out arrangements with parking and the plane tickets and all that stuff, parking my car in my home to take the plane to Texas, to then get a rental car there, and then driving from Dallas Fort Worth to Brownwood, Texas, which is where she's buried. It was it's all those days and hours just to get to her grave. And I don't have the luxury of visiting her grave every week and spending time and talking to her. I don't have that luxury. So maybe that was something that was robbed from me. But at the bookstore in her hometown is where I found this book. And I knew about this book in the movie before. So I was familiar with the story. I was familiar with the fact that there was a movie called A Man Called Otto, and that it was based on a Swedish book. I was familiar with that. But I don't know if it's, I believe in God. So let's just say it was God who left this copy of the book in that bookstore in my wife's hometown. And that's when I said, yeah, I'm going to buy this book. So I started reading this book from then on. I read maybe a couple chapters here or there. And then there was a brief period in the last few months where I just wasn't reading it. And it was holding me back on a lot of books that I wanted to read. So over the weekend, I made the commitment to finish it. And I did. I finished it. And it was a pleasure reading this book. And a few hours that same day, that same night, that's when I went to see the film version, A Man Called Ove, which I'll do a separate review on. I have the Blu-ray of that and the Blu-ray of also of A Man Called Otto. So I'll do film reviews on both of those, separate reviews. But this is just a review for the book. And yeah, it's a wonderful read. It is very easy to follow. So you'll have no problems following along and keeping up with the narrative. It's clear. So you're not really confused when you're reading the book. So I definitely, especially if you're a widower, I would recommend this book because you'll understand. You'll definitely be able to understand Ove's emotions and his motivations. If you're a widow, I'd still recommend the book because you get to see just how much we value our wives and how much we adore them and how much of purpose they give us. Our women give us purpose. So I'm not saying that we are without purpose if we don't have a woman, but when we do have a woman, they do give us purpose. And it makes their loss even more deeper because of that loss of purpose. And that's what Ove was facing, a loss of purpose. But he found that purpose again with the people in that neighborhood, with Parvane, with Adrian, with Anita and Rune, with Parvana's kids. So he found purpose again up until the end of the book. So I won't say more than that, but I definitely recommend this book. And I think it's a fun read. It's an enriching read. And total recommend. So that is my book review. I do want to thank you for watching the video. And if this is your first time here on this channel, give a watch. Look at the life and times of me and Stephanie. And if you're a widow or a widower, I hope that this channel gives you an outlet to go to. If you have read the book, please leave a comment and let me hear what you have to say about it. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon. Have a great day. Take care.